Thursday. There we go. All right. Happy Thursday, everyone else that has joined me since the last time I said happy Thursday. It's just a great day, right? Sunny out, got warm coffee. It's like I ran out of coffee today, so I had to like find that backup bag that's been up there for like 3 years. But it's okay. I still got it. Kyle's gonna be a happy camper. Okay. Let me get the Zoom up here because I lost you. Oh, no. Okay. I know what I'm doing wrong. There we go. Let's go back to the mean lady. There we go. That's nice. Okay. And in addition to it, oh, come on. I see what you're doing. You're just being a pain in the tush. Kyle is having a batch of the Mondays. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Now she's shrunk. Now I can play from start. And now I can deck my slides. All right. Boop. And this is all on recording, of course. Gotta love it. Okay, participants. Bam. Okay, single thumbs up. I am good to go. Let's see that mean woman one more time. She just wants to speak to our manager. And does anyone know where this is from? Actually, that is like literally an open question. Does anyone know where this is from? Because I have no idea.
Superstore?
It looks like Superstore.
No, is it Superstore? Okay.
It's a movie where they curve the bullets. It was based off that comic book.
Wanted?
Oh,
Wanted.
Is it Wanted? Okay.
Yeah.
Matrix?
I do see Superstore though. I do see it. He's talking about.
It looks
The
like her,
Matrix.
but I didn't know she had a purse on in any of those scenes. She's got that shoulder strap going.
That's hilarious. She plays the same character in two different things. Funny. All right. Yeah, I find these these gifts and everything, and I'm like, that's useful, but I don't have any context about what this is at. So hopefully it's a good thing, and I'm not gonna have like a bad meme in here or anything like that. Anyway, let's move on here. Yes, today we are talking to our managers, the DOM and events. So let's dive into that a little bit. As always, we have our announcements here, and that's what I was working on here at the beginning of class. And just real quick before I actually forget, there we go. Start looking at assignment 4, aka start working on assignment 4, aka please be working on assignment 4 because it is due next Thursday and Monday. Unfortunately, again, I have to part. We will not be having lecture. It will be a catch-up day straight to your small groups. So go right to your small groups. We won't be having lecture. I was not aware of that until right now, so I'm confirming that, double-checking that with Clark, but we will not be having lecture. So please still read your chapters and go right to your small groups. As always, not as always, most of the time, we're having studio review tonight at 8 p.m. So feel free to come back in. It's not mandatory, but we do work through the entire studio from start to finish. Thank you again to Jason for being my studio partner last week. And then finally, yes, okay, I already talked about it, but next Thursday, assignment 4 is due. So make sure you're doing that. If you have any knowledge gaps, please reach out to your TAs, please reach out to me, reach out to your fellow colleagues and classmates to get over those humps. All right, anybody have any final questions before we jump into some fun? Anything at all? Okay, in that case, let's bring it on back to last week. Do you guys remember? Do you still get it? Someone tell me this. If I want to bring a team or friends repo repository into my machine, what git command am I going to use?
Clone.
I love it. We're going to clone that thing, and it's going to be git clone and then my repo link here, which is going to look like a long website name. We've seen that. How about this one? If I wanted to make a separate copy within the repo to do my own changes on, what would I do?
Branch.
It is correct. Yes, that is branch. It is branching because we're going to make a copy. It's going to branch off the existing branch there. So yes, very good. That's how we make a local copy on our local repository. So I don't affect my friend or my teammates' changes. So I do that all in my own branch. To run that command, we do git branch and then the name of the new branch. So this will create us a branch. But the question after that is, created that branch, but how do I switch over to it once I create it?
Checkout.
Very good. Very good. Yes, we are going to check out, and the command for that one finally is get checkout branch name. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to actually bring lecture 15 onto my machine here, just to make sure that everything I just told you is not a lie, which sometimes you never know, could be. So what I do is I come over here to my lecture 15 repo. If you go to Kyle Wagoner, this is where the repository is. If you want to clone it and work with us right now, this is where you want to go to, github.com/Kyle-Wagoner. Then what I could do is go to repositories. It should be that top one, fingers crossed. There it is, lecture 15. I click on that. And then I can't give everyone access. So what you are going to have to do is you're going to have to fork it onto your own repository. You have to fork it. And which will be up here in the top right. Go ahead and click on that fork. You can also just branch off of mine. You just won't be able to push any of your changes because it will be a 403. You'll be forbidden. So if you do want to push future changes, or if you want to have this just on your repository, fork in the top right corner. Once you do that, or if you just want to clone it just as it is on my repository, you click code and come over here and you copy this link. Once we have that link copied, what we're going to do is come over here and we're going to open up a new terminal. Now tell me this, how do I change a directory of where I need to go to?
CD.
Very good. I need to do a CD into on my home directory. So I need to start with desktop, TOP. Maybe, well, you know. I'm actually already in lecture 15. So never mind. Yes, you were right. CD, we were going to pretend that I did that. I'm actually in lecture 15 right now. So what I'm going to do is type in what to clone. Dang. Never mind. We're going to type in get clone to clone it. I can just give you that one for free. There we go. Unable to operation. Okay. Oh, touche. Oh, because that does not exist anymore, does it? Nope. So CD. There we go. LS. I think I broke it. I broke you. I'm sorry about that. That's my bad. Terminal. I deleted the file right before this, so it's like, what are you talking about? You're not anywhere. You're in a black hole. What are you doing? Yeah. CD, LC. There we go. Now I'm where I need to be. So I'm typing clear to clear out my terminal. All right, again, and it's been enough time. How do I make a copy on my local machine using that link we just copied? What command?
Clone.
Get clone. Awesome. There we go. And now it's going to clone lecture 15 into my local machine here. So give it a second because internet takes a second. Come on. There we go. All right. So now I'm in here. So I'm going to type in LS. I see lecture 15 is now there. So I'm going to CD into lecture 15. Perfect, perfect. And now I'm seeing a few files in here. So if you've also done this, you should be seeing the files that I'm seeing right now, which is got 7 files to work with. So let's go ahead and we're going to open up our text editor here, which is going to be Visual Studio Code. And we're going to start taking a look at what's going on in here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy. There we go. And then I'm going to type in Visual Studio Code again so we can just open it. And tell me this, when I'm opening up my lecture 15, what do I need to make sure I do? What is our one important thing when we're opening up that we need to really pay attention to? What am I going to do? Am I going to open up by file or folder?
You're opening it up by folder.
Very good. I'm going to say open and let it come down. There we go. And it's going to come to desktop. LC for launch code, and then lecture 15. I'm going to single click on this one so that my folder is selected and then press open. Now on my left-hand side, I'm going to see all of those files populated here in a moment. There it is. And perfect. That's what we have. So today, this is what we're going to be working with. So get excited. We are going to be working with a nice, fun website. So as you can see, we see 2 images here, 2 HTMLs, and a simple JS with a style CSS. Just clicking into the indexed HTML. We're going to see just a fun thing here. Look at that. A lot of HTML going on. We'll go over this, but we're going to go into a bigger website today because you guys are ready for that. I just have that feeling. And then, of course, we have our simple JS, which is literally nothing, just a console log. But anyway, we've seen HTML, we've seen the JS, but let's go into CSS here just for a moment. And I just want to ask my quick questions. First, we see these 3 different CSS stylings, but they're for 3 different things. Can someone tell me what this kind of styling is going to directly impact?
Anything that's H1, tag is H1.
Very good. Anything with an H1 tag, any H1 tag at all, will get this styling because that's what that means. This H1 is the tag name. Who can tell me what this is called? What is this?
Class.
Click
A
button.
class.
Very good. It's a class. It is a CSS class. And we know it's a class because it's denoted by a period, a dot here. When it starts with a dot, it's a class. It can only go in the class attribute in HTML. What do I mean by the class attribute? If we come down here, we see that our class attribute right here has that pet adoption button class in it. This is the only place I can place it. So that's where these belong. Let's go back to CSS here for a second. Final question. What does this one denote?
ID.
Very good. It means ID, so it can only belong in the attribute, the ID attribute in our HTML. Going back up here, it is welcome message. ID is the attribute with welcome message in there. Very good. So if we come over here and we actually see what we built and we refresh this, what we get is some cute pups and some cute kittens. Look at that. And today we're working with a pet store and we're going to make an adoption site. And one day this is going to be real and I can adopt that cute little pup. Look at it. Anywho, this is what we're going to be working with today. So please make sure if you are going to follow along, this is on your machine and you see this after you double click your index.html on inside the folder. That's how you get to this. You double click index.html inside of the folder. All right. Everybody ready for some more lecture? Awesome. So let's go ahead and talk about what we have essentially been working to. Now, I've been annoying you with a lot of JavaScript talk in the very beginning. Remember, we've been working with each other for about 15 lectures now. So we started with JavaScript, and as you know, my dog named Stark, which you probably wake up in cold sweats about, dog named Stark, and then of course our console logs, basic JavaScript here, which is completely fine. We've been working with JavaScript, and then recently in the past lectures, we've been introduced to our new friend HTML. And as you've seen in HTML, it's really cool. We can put these tags in there and build something that's beautiful. We can put information on websites. Now, this information on the websites, as we just saw over here, is very cool. It shows us information, but you know, interacting with the web every day, that is just not static information that's always on a website. This isn't the 1990s anymore. We do more with our websites. We actually do something, AKA we interact with our websites. And HTML isn't built to be interactable? Interactable, is that it? Allow interaction. HTML is very static and just has information in it. JavaScript, on the other hand, as we've seen with getting users input and showing output and being able to do something, is much more interactive. So today what we're going to do is see how we can combine the worlds of beautiful static information and the world of dynamic and interaction together in one. So what we're going to be looking at is how do we get JavaScript and HTML actually working together? That's today's topic. And wouldn't it be really nice that it could be very, very easy where maybe HTML just provides us maybe a tag, possibly name something very, very easy to remember for us to allow this? Well, thankfully it actually does. And today, in order to get these two systems or these two languages working together, we're going to start by using the script tag. Remember this tag, it's the script tag, AKA JavaScript tag. We're going to throw all of our JavaScript inside of HTML. Remember, tags only belong in HTML, and this is the one we're going to be using there to provide more JavaScript and interaction with it. So this tag is going to be used to place that JS, which stands for JavaScript, obviously, in HTML. So seeing this, let's go ahead and actually get really dirty. Wow, I am tripping over my words right now. Let's actually get into the meat of it here and take these scripts and actually see it in action. So we're going to come over here. Now, the fun thing about the script tags, or maybe the more confusing part, is that script tags can be used in both the head and the body. Everything else we've learned so far with title and link have been very specific to the head or the body. Script, as we were going to see today, and I just want to warn you now, can be used in both. But there's very, very defined reasons of where we use them, and we'll be going through that in more depth as we work through this exercise. So right now, what we're going to just do is that we're just going to make a very, very simple JavaScript case and just console log something. So that's what we're going to start with here. Now, we said it's the script tag. So easy enough, we're going to start in the head here if you're working with me. We're going to put open bracket, and then script, and then close bracket. There it is. My computer's going a little slow today. So there we go. Easy enough, right? We did it. We're making them talk to each other now. But let's move one more step closer. Let's go ahead and take in that dog name idea, or that dog name example that we just had. We said let dog name, we're going to type in just normal JavaScript here, dog name equals Stark. And just like how we did on our first and second day of lecture, we're just going to console log it. And we're going to console log dog name, just like that. Easy enough, right? So once we do this, let's go ahead and see actually what happens. I saved it. I made sure I saved it because Kai was tripping on that last week. And we're going to come over here. Now I'm going to exit out of this so I can show you what I did. We're on this page right now. I'm going to right click and press inspect. This is going to bring open my developer terminal on the right-hand side for me. Sometimes it might open on the bottom for you, but it is the same thing. And what I'm going to do is come over here and click on console. Now I see my console log on the right-hand side. We did a console log in our code. So when I refresh this page, I should be able to see my dog name printed to this terminal or this console on the right-hand side. So let's go and refresh it. Awesome. We refresh and we see Stark in the top right. Again, that's because we put our script tags and we put our console log there. Now, awesome. We have begun to write actual JavaScript code in our files here. And I see a quick question. Is there a keyboard shortcut or a setting that needs enabled for VS to automatically put in the closing tag when you type a new tag? Good question. I did not enable anything but the default settings for my Visual Studio Code. So if it's not working, I would definitely say Google that. If you're working on a Windows machine, it might be different for some reason, but it might actually be a setting. It definitely is a setting somewhere in there. So I would definitely Google that. I apologize, I don't know it off the top of my head. If any TA or TF does know, please, or any classmate also know, please help out and definitely reply back. Otherwise, reach out to me directly and we'll come to the bottom of it. All right, so here, as you've seen previously, you have applications with a ton of JavaScript code. So yes, you could definitely put it between those script tags and let it just run every single time that the window is loaded, but that's always not the case. So real quick, I want to show you, not only can you write JavaScript code between these script tags, but you can also bring in JavaScript from a file. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. How we do that is we just say script once again, and then we say source, and then we say where our JavaScript is at. If you see in the top left here, I have a simple .js file up here that just has a console log in it that says hello from a file. So we're going to be using this today. So we go back over here, we say source, quotes, and then, what was it? simple-js.js. There we go. And then I'm going to close that, and then it closes my script for me. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's go back over and run it one more time. What I'm going to say is I use Command or Control R to refresh. Oops. And oh, come on. What did I do wrong? Oh, I typed in source wrong. SRC. SRC. There we go. Come back over. There we go. So now we see on the right-hand side, we have Stark from our original text, and now from hello from a file, actually reading back in that JavaScript from a file. So if you do want to take out your JavaScript, that very, very messy JavaScript, and put its own file away, kind of how we did with CSS last lecture, this is how we do it, and how we attach it to HTML files. So what I'm going to do here is just quickly pause, just because we just got our feet wet with putting JS into HTML, and see if there's any questions. So anybody at all, feel free to yell out. All right, Jen, any reason why these wouldn't be showing up in my console on Chrome? Not seeing these changes I'm making. I don't exactly know. Make sure that it's copied directly how it is in the code or how I'm showing it. But also to you and to everyone else, if for some reason it's not working, the full -index.html has all the answers to everything we're going to be going through today if you want to take over that. So hopefully that would help. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue on here. Why are your two scripts built different? So we have two scripts here. One was showing how to directly place JavaScript into the HTML. The second script is to show how we can read JavaScript from a file. This is written differently because it's showing two different situations. One, if you just want to directly inject your JavaScript into your HTML, or the other one just read from a file. You also, okay. All right. So we have this now. There we go, and I have all that. So let's go back to our lecture here. So we just saw our script tags in action. They're working. We have our JavaScript flowing through our HTML, but the sad thing is we're connected, but we're not really doing anything. I mean, awesome. You did a console log, Kyle. Like, is this what you're paid for? Like, I could do that. Like, I know it's not fun. We're getting our way there. I promise, stop being me. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to more interact with our environment. So let's hop into that and talk about what I mean by our environment. Now, we're peeking in kind of just to the start of how to interact with things on our browser, in our website, in our HTML. So the question you should be asking now, how can we actually start interacting with things on the page? What do we even interact with? And that's what I want to go over right now. We so far have talked about HTML in our nice little document there, or our nice little HTML file. But one thing we haven't really talked about too much is the things surrounding it. We don't actually just have HTML, but we also have our browser, aka our window. If we look over to our browser here, we have the HTML inside of it, but it's contained inside the browser. Remember, HTML is made for a browser. Browsers are the ones who translate all of our HTML into something pretty. So in reference to, or what we reference that as, is called the window. And we can use that within our HTML within JavaScript. So the thing about Windows is that it has properties and methods of its own that we can use to, again, interact with our environment and interact with our surroundings and our users. Some of those being what you've seen possibly in your reading is window.location. If we go back to our code and we type in up here inside of our JavaScript to console log window, which you just say window, which is just known in JavaScript. You don't have to do any imports or anything like that. You just write window, which is really nice. Dot, and then location. This is going to tell you everything about where you are in the website. So what I'm gonna do is console log out, or sorry, comment out these two lines just so we don't see start all the time. Press save, and we're gonna go over and see what location does. We refresh that, and what we see on the right-hand side is called an object. You've already heard objects, but we haven't seen it yet in this console. If you press this little arrow next to it, we see all of the properties of this object. One of the things in here is href. This is our location where we're currently at. As you see, it's users, Kyle Wagner, desktop, LC, lecture 15. It's the file that we're currently in. You did this on like Google or on Bing or DuckDuckGo or something like that, you'd see the actual URL there as well. Location is very powerful because it tells us where we are in the World Wide Web or on our own individual pages. So that's the one first thing about that. The next one I want to go over is our window.alert with a message in there. This one's a fun one, and also used to be used for a lot of viruses on websites as well, but we're getting a little bit better now. That being said, don't use that information for evil, please and thank you. So what we do with alerts is that it's going to tell the user that something has gone awry or something that they need to be notified about. So I'm gonna go ahead and comment out this console log here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do an alert. So what we do is type window.alert, say, oh my NG, something happened. We go into here and we save that. We go to our website and we refresh, and bam, look at that, notified, alerted. OMG, something happened. That's what this guy does. Another one I want to make you aware of also is the window.confirm. Window.confirm is asking you, are you sure you want to do this, or do you want to get out of here because you think you made a mistake? That's what confirm does. So it's window.confirm, not comment, confirm. And are you, oh, is it? Click OK if you're having a great time. There we go. We save that. We come back over here. We refresh. And it says, click OK if you're having a great time. Like, I'm having a great time. So I'm going to click OK. There we go. So that's all it does is that it pops out. I'll show that one more time. It pops up a little sign right here about a confirm. It's like, OK, cancel or confirm. Again, it's asking the user, are you sure or do you want to get out of here? So that's what you do. But what comes back from that is actually whether or not they clicked OK in a Boolean sense. So what we can say here, just to show you real quick, is response. And that's going to come back true or false. True if they click OK, false if they don't. So if we do console log dot, are they having a great time? And say plus response. There we go. Are they having a great time? Let's take a little quick look here, and we console log that. So we're going to refresh. And you click OK, and are they having a great time? True. Awesome. So that's what we can do. We get back the response from that confirm, and we can use that in if statements or in while loops, anything that wants a conditional. That's why that response is so powerful. Now I'm seeing a question here. When you use window.alert or window.confirm, does the browser pause the window loading? It does. Right on that line, it's going to wait, actually. On line 22, it's going to wait for you to acknowledge the alert or the confirm before it moves down on its code. Remember, even in HTML, even in JavaScript within HTML, it's going to go sequentially. We're going to be seeing that a lot today. Sequentially, sequentially, sequentially. So yes, it will pause here at line 22 until you say OK or cancel. Great question, Kevin. All right. So I'm going to pause here for one moment. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to throw them out about Windows. Anything else about Windows? I think that's all the ones I have to do. Yes, yes, awesome. There's one person. I'll go ahead and unmute for just a moment here. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. Is there a way to have the browser continue? No wait. Yes, technically. There are ways around it, but it is risky. You need to know what you're doing. What you're going to be looking for is a thing called asynchrony. So asynchronous functions in order to do that. So I would definitely check out that if you want to see how that works.
Is there a way to change when the alert pops up and it says this page says, is there a way to change that to be something that you want?
So are you saying like in a different situation or scenario, then show the alert?
When you did the Windows.alert or the Windows.confirm, the box that came up said, this page says, are you having a great time? Is there a way to change this page says to be whatever you want it to say?
Maybe in advanced settings, I don't exactly know. So
Okay.
I would definitely take a closer look at that. Look up window.dialog and see what you can find. And if you find out that you can, let me know. That'd be really, really cool. I'm sure there's some way deep down. I know sometimes it gets there with security too. Like that's a rabbit hole. So let me know what you find if you investigate that. That's a really, really interesting question. I like that. Awesome. All right, not seeing anyone typing, not seeing anything. So let's keep on trekking. So I have skipped the wrong way. There we go. So we talked about how we can begin interacting with our browser. So let's take it one step further in here. Oh, and other methods, of course. Thank you. Let's take it down to the HTML level. So now we're inside the browser, but we're down to the HTML. Now, HTML, as you know, is a file. It's a document with a lot of scripting on there that we give to a browser to make something pretty. It's a document that we give to a browser to make something pretty. AKA, this whole thing right here is considered or called a document very, very frequently. And we know that this document has a lot of things in it. It has a lot of information. It has tags, it has text, it has images. And so something has to be there to manage it. Hence, I think you know where I'm going with this. The thing that actually manages all of our HTML inside of it is called the DOM, or also the document object model. This is essentially what is containing all of our HTML and everything inside of it. And in addition, with containing everything, it contains also information about our HTML and our document. So this DOM, what it is just a container for all of our HTML. That's it. Not only does it provide information, it provides us also methods to manipulate our document as well. So we can change it up whenever we want to make it, again, interactive, word of the day. So, okay, no, I saw some typing there. So that's what we're going to be exploring here. So the information it contains, and the first one I want to show you is the title. You've seen title before. In this example, we see that on the HTML here on my screen, it is my title. So the title here, the information that we contain inside here is just my title. So we'll go over to our pet store real quick, and we're just going to console log that fun one out. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this out again. There we go. And I'm going to console log our title. But I'm going to show you how we actually call this. what we do is that we're not calling to the window, we're calling to our document, our HTML. So we're saying document, which is lowercase d. And again, we don't have to import anything. The keyword is already out there. Say document.title. That's it. That holds that information for us. So we're gonna go ahead and save that. I'm gonna go back over to our website. We're gonna refresh. And now I see my title up here, pet store. We just console logged our title out there utilizing the document. So we're well on our way of how to actually use this. What's that looks like? Oh, cool, Josh. Yeah, awesome. So it looks like the question previously answered about the alert, can that text be changed? It looks like it's a security measure, so it cannot be. So yes, thank you very much for that. I know security sometimes got intertwined with that thing, so cool. All right, so we printed out our title here. We know that there's security measures in the alert. We are well on our way with a bunch of information today. Awesome, awesome. So let's keep moving down. So we have our title, but the next big thing, and possibly the most important thing that it contains, are our elements. Elements, because we haven't referred to them as like this just yet, elements are our tags. Those are considered elements inside of HTML. Your header, your H1, your sections, your P for paragraphs. Those are all elements within our document, within our DOM. So that's what we're going to be interacting with within this DOM here. So this is the really, really important thing to really be looking at as we're working with this. So I need to make sure that I'm not missing one example here for you. I think we are real good. Yeah, awesome. So we're going to be taking a look exactly at how elements are essentially used, found, and manipulated using the DOM or our document. So let's go ahead and explore that a little bit. So we know in a basic HTML site, we have a ton of tags. And by the way, this is a very, very simplistic one. HTML sites can be thousands upon thousands lines of different tags. We have a lot of elements inside of these DOMs, inside of these documents, and that's only one page. Other pages like blog posts have thousands of pages of just information. If you think about your favorite news site, how many blog posts they have. So much information is out there, so many elements. And as developers, we need something to help us find specific elements if we want to manipulate, use them, or anything at all. So if we want to interact with an element, the biggest thing we need to do is we must find the element first. It's like on the cusp of being a fortune cookie right there. And in order to do that, we use a very specific method, which is we use the document keyword, but we say .getElementById with ID name. That is how we find something specifically inside of our document, inside of our HTML. So looking at a specific example here, document.getElementById first para. If we look on the right-hand side, it's going to find the element with the attribute of ID of first para. And as we can see, it's down here. This one has the ID. We also know why we use getElementById and why it's so crucial that we use unique IDs is because we don't want to try to find multiple ones. It's going to find the one specific one with that unique identifier, first para. So make sure you keep your IDs unique because this method right here is what's going to save you from having a bad Monday. So make sure your IDs stay unique so we can use this properly. Let's look at one more. Not only can we get elements by IDs, maybe we want to get a batch or find something by a class name instead. In that case, what we're going to be using is the query selector. The query selector looks for CSS class names or CSS selectors. So you can look for multiple class names or even tag names to get them back here. So that's what the query selector does. So if we did this one, what we're going to see is this get to the H1 header style up there because we called the class header style. We know it's a class because it starts with a period. So this right here is how we're going to start getting our elements and beginning the steps to actually interacting with our website a little bit better. So let's go ahead and see this in action. What we're going to do is go back to our code. And in here, we're going to grab one element and that's it, just to show it's all working. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this ID here, this Arnold text. And what we want to do is that we're just going to grab, we're going to do is say let element document.getElement by ID. And then we're going to say Arnold text. That's right. There we go. Now we're going to console log our element to see what it looks like. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that we're going to run this, save it. And what we're going to get is come back here and we're going to get a null in our top right. That's because what we just did was the right way to actually get an element by ID, but we used it in the wrong place. What I wanted to go back over here, well, like we talked about, our HTML and our JavaScript is compiled sequentially, and it's ran sequentially. So on line 27 here, when I'm just trying to get this element out of here, the element does not exist yet because the element's actually going to be built on line 38. So again, that's why we got back null. So what we're going to do is something different. We're going to take this code here, and what we're going to do is write another script within our body so we can actually get this particular element when we want it. So what we do is we come down here, we put script, just like that, and now we paste in our code. Like we said before, script tags can go in the body. And now, since the paragraph is built on line 35 and we're asking for it on line 37, now it should work a little bit better. So let's take a look. Let's go ahead and refresh that. And now we're actually getting back our true element here. So everything's working a little bit better. Awesome, awesome. Now take a quick look. It says Arnold here, right? We're gonna look at now the first steps of manipulating our elements. Once we gather our elements and we know that we have it because we console logged it to the screen, I wanna show you how to actually change Arnold to, let's say Arnold with an exclamation point or something like that, something cute. So element, and now you can use two specific properties. One, it could be inner HTML, which can change the HTML of the paragraph, or inner text, which changes the text inside of the tag. I want to change Arnold, which is the text. So I'm going to say inner text plus equals, because I'm going to append to this and a few exclamation points. Let's see our first step to manipulating our elements here. We're going to come back over here and we're going to refresh. And look at what we just did. We got our element, and then we said, hey, change your inner text to Arnold and append a couple extra exclamation points. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. So what we did is we grabbed it using the ID and manipulated it. This is our first step to manipulating websites. So here I'm going to pause for just a moment and ask if there's any questions, because I know that was a lot there thrown at you all at once.
Can you go back to the code?
Absolutely.
What did you say the inner HTML will amend?
So inner text will change the inner text of the element. Inner HTML will change the insides of the HTML, how you see fit. So you can basically put more HTML within HTML by doing that. So you can basically manipulate things inside of elements by putting inside inner HTML. And I'm going to go ahead and show you that, since that is just very confusing what I just said. If I wanted to maybe put a header now for Arnold instead of appending it, what I can do is that I can say H1 Arnold H1. There we go. And save that. So now I'm going to place inner HTML inside of there. So let's refresh this. And now it has changed the entire inside HTML to Arnold with an H1 tag. So inner HTML manipulates inside of that tag. Inner text only manipulates the text inside of the tag. That's the differences between the two. Does that kind of help, Wima?
I'll reread it later.
Yeah, that one's a bit confusing. So just know that inner text, if you just want to change the text, that's what it does. Inner HTML means if you want to put more things inside of it. Why would you do that rather than just changing the HTML? Katie, can you give me a little bit more elaboration on that?
So why would you change the HTML inside the JavaScript with element.inner HTML rather than just changing the actual HTML code?
Absolutely, and that's where the dynamic and interaction comes from. What if on a button press, because we haven't really talked about that yet, you want to change Arnold, so you have an edit button. You want to change Arnold to something else. Well, that's a conditional. So what I'm getting at is that maybe there's conditions or situations that you want to change your HTML based on them. So of course you can just update your HTML if you know it's always going to be like that. But if you have a button click or another kind of event, which again we haven't come up on, that's when you would want to change your inner HTML. It would be based on a situation. And we'll look at events here and we'll kind of see more about what I'm talking about with these conditionals and what we're kind of like, what we're trying to get at actually. So let me go and we're going to keep moving forward here so we don't run out of time and I have to go quick on the events. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back to inner text. Actually, no, we're just going to comment that out. And there we go. Perfect. All right. So we got our elements back. We did this example. So awesome, awesome. So now what we want to learn about is we're going to just quickly do our query selector. So the query selector, again, all we have to do is we're going to write script here. It is going to grab elements by their CSS selector. The one we have above, if we can find any classes, here we go. We have a pet adoption button here. So what I'm going to do is going to use the query selector to get me that one. So I'm going to say let element equal, and then it's going to be document.querySelector, not that, query selector. And then we place our query selector inside of there. And of course, we have to put our dot here to denote that it is a class. So what we're going to do is then we're going to console log out this element real quick just to show that it works. And that should be it. Element perfect. There we go. Save that, go back to our website, refresh, and we see now our button has been grabbed. Again, this is just how we get things. This is how we get stuff. So we are now getting our elements back. We're getting this button back. We got that H1 thing back. So that's great. We're getting them. We kind of saw how we interact with them and manipulate them by doing the text. But let's take it one step further. Remember that if we want to style something, we can use CSS, but we can also use the inline style attribute. And what I mean by that, if we go back up to our paragraph here, if we wanted to style this specifically here, and we say style equals whatever it would be, background dash color, and we say red like that, that is direct inline styling. And style is an attribute. So if we refresh this and we go back here, we see that it changes to red. Awesome. Now, what if we actually wanted to do it within JavaScript? Again, maybe we have a conditional or something happening. So what we need to do is that we've gotten the element. That's the step one. And the next thing we need to do is actually set our attributes. So what we do, instead of saying get our element, what we're going to do is say set attribute. So watch this closely. Element.set attribute. And what we do now is denote what attribute we want to set. In this case, it's going to be style. And then we say exactly what we want to put inside of the style attribute. Like we saw above, what I did was background color. And then red, just like that. Perfect. So we set our attribute like this. So let's go back and see what happens now. And you know what, just to make sure that we actually do something here, I'm going to say blue instead, just so we can see some kind of change. Oh, did I do it for a .me? Oh, I did do it for the .me because I use the query selector. There we go. So what it does is that it grabs the pet adoption button from the query selector and then sets the attribute of the button, the background, to blue. And then of course, we're just console logging it out after that. We come over here and we see that now our button's background is now blue. Again, this is using JavaScript to do exactly what we could do in HTML, but just on the JavaScript side. It's just two ways to do something, but we'll see why exactly we use each one in specific circumstances. So that is setting those attributes. So we now know how to get an element. We know now how to set and manipulate our elements. So we are well on our way now to actually do something fun. Before I move on to the fun part, does anyone have any final questions?
Do the like under this script, you have let element equal document dot get element by ID, and then under the other script you have let element equal document dot query selector. Would you be able to do that if you had that first one not grayed out?
This one, I would not. What would happen is that it would
Okay.
actually get very upset. Yes, very good question. I would have to name this one element 2. It's because it's going sequentially and it builds this, but it's not going to forget about it. So very, very good question. Yes, make sure that you don't have similar name variables within the two same script tags. Cool, cool. All right. All right, there's no more questions. We're going to continue on. Let's actually talk about the final fun thing I really want to get into, because it means we get to do some cool stuff now from here on out. All right, so we looked at how to get them. We looked at how to set our attributes, looked at how to manipulate things. So let's see why we're even learning this. Now, on our actual website, we see that we have our Adopt Me button. So I'm going to bring that into light here. We have this Adopt Me button on our site, and you've seen buttons on a bunch of websites. I'm sure you've clicked a few today. And you know, every time you click that button, or at least hopefully, something happens. Maybe a dialogue appears or a box appears. You transfer money using Venmo, anything like that. Button clicks. So when you take your cursor and you actually go ahead and click on that button, what happens is that an event occurs. It is literally called an event. You clicking on the button in a website's eyes, you have created an event. But the question is that if the event occurs, but no one is around to hear it, does it actually happen? Well, technically, yes, but nothing happens because of it. It doesn't trigger anything. It doesn't cause anything to happen. So in order for this to trigger something, to make something happen, what we need to do is build something to actually listen for the event, to listen for that person clicking the button. Remember, events happen whether you click the button or not, but the only other part to make something happen is to add a thing called a listener. So what we're going to do is see how now to create that listener here. What we need to do is we get the element, which in this scenario, I'm going to be using my button, my BTN right there. And we're going to pretend we got this element. And what we do is we say .add event listener. This is going to take in two different parameters, two different arguments here. And the first one is going to be an event type. What are you trying to listen for? Right now, the only thing we've actually talked about is clicking. So an event type in this case would be click. The second parameter that it takes is a function, what it's actually going to do. This is the second parameter to an event listener. So this is how we build one very, very basically. So let's go ahead and see it in action. What we're going to do is that we're going to come over to our website and we're going to make this Adopt Me button actually do something. So what I'm going to have is this button up here. I got my element down here. And what I want to actually do is build an event listener. So what I say is I'm going to rename element to just so we can keep our sanity here. I'm going to say it's, what is that? It is Arnold Adopt button. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is take out these two lines of code because we don't need to set the attributes. What I'm going to do is now when I'm going to create an event listener. So we have Arnold Adopt button here. And we're going to do period, then add event listener. Again, it takes in two different parameters. The first one is what we're listening for. I want to listen for a click. And then second, I want to build a function that does something. So now, once this button is clicked, I can actually do something. I'm just going to console log hello for right now. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Let's go ahead and save this, go back, refresh, and watch our console very closely. Nothing appears there. We click it, and now hello actually appears. Now, I know this is very, very small and probably like, what? Nothing's actually fun or anything really entertaining is happening here. So let's go ahead and explore it a little bit deeper. The best thing about this, though, is that we can see JavaScript is actually working within this function. So now we're going to explore a little bit further. We are going to change this paragraph up here on this button click to the background being red. So what we need to do is we say, let's our Arnold text equal, and now we need to get the element, document.getElement by ID, and we're going to call it Arnold text. We get our ID, and now that we have our ID, we can actually manipulate it. We can set things. So what I say is Arnold text, and what I'm going to do is say inner text equals plus equals, because we're going to append it. I'm going to say adopted. And also, I'm going to put Arnold text dot set attribute. And what I'm going to do is the style and has a background color of red. There you go. We save this. Oh, I think I have a weird thing in there. I don't. Okay. So I'm going to refresh this now. I click Adopt Me. And now we have changed our background of this paragraph and appended text, all because something happened. So Katie, I want to revisit your question. This is kind of provide more light on why we exactly have those features and methods to help us out. Okay, cool. So what we're waiting for is conditionals or events to happen for us to actually manipulate our website. We just took even though it was very, very small, we just took our HTML site from being something static and boring to something that highlights something in red and adds text. Now, if that's not mind-blowing, I don't know what is, and you guys need to find somebody else who make it. I'm just kidding. No, we're gonna find something much, much more exciting there. But I think this is a really big first step into actually doing something with our websites. So I'm getting a question here. So functions inside HTML can return or change more than one thing. Absolutely, yes. So they can manipulate as much as they want inside of that function. That's completely fine, yeah. If I wanna change all of these paragraphs, I can. We just have to make sure we place that script in the correct place. So awesome question. Yeah, we don't have to do just one thing. I see a few people typing too. And you know what, at this point too, I'm just gonna take it off mute. And feel free to yell at me if you'd like.
They can't return more than one thing, can they? They can modify more than one thing.
They can modify more than one.
Return one item.
They can only return one item, but also you're not going to want to return anything in these functions. There's nothing there listening for them. So you're actually not even going to be wanting to return anything in the event listeners. So don't even worry about the returns, but it's good to note that yes, they can only return one thing, but they can manipulate hundreds. Great question.
Are there any situations where you would not use an anonymous function, for a click button?
That's a great question. We're going to explore that next. I love the transition, Jason. Awesome. How can you use button click to enter a new page? Is that possible? Absolutely. And that is something we're not going to be exploring during this lecture, but what you're looking for is an href or a link. You can also use document.look. I always forget. Is it window.href or something like that? Yeah, you can. You can use actually the window.location property that we saw at the beginning of lecture to do that on a button click. That is a very good question. Melanie, if you want to direct message me and remind me about that question, I will definitely get you that material if you want to dive deeper into that. Very cool. All right. Well, I see one. Oh, awesome. All right, well, then let's go ahead and take one more deeper dive into this. And it's going to be about how to actually make these event listeners a little bit cleaner as well. So why I put this down here is because our button got set up on line 41. We go sequentially, so I had to do it down here. But maybe I don't want to have this big old function here inside of here. So what I can do is instead of using an anonymous function, I can actually do something a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I can do is I can go up to my script here and I can actually paste it inside of here. So what I can do is actually build a named function, change Arnold tag, just like that. And we can use a named function inside of that, a listener now, just like that, without the parentheses, because we're just giving the reference to the function. We don't want to put the parentheses in there. This is one way we can kind of clean up our code and how we can kind of minimize what's down here in the HTML if we want a little bit better readability. So this is one way you can do it, but I want to show you one more way that we can actually add event listeners to our stuff for a little bit better functionality. And it's actually how it's typically used, at least in my practice, how we actually add events to our items or to our elements. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is going to do the same exact thing I just did for our dot button for Arnold for Lucy, but I'm going to do it in a different way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here by taking this, well, actually I'll write from scratch, say function, I'm going to say change Lucy tag. And in here, what I'm going to do is say let Lucy text equal document.get element by ID. Lucy.text. Awesome, awesome. There we go. And then we say Lucy text dot inner text plus equals is adopted. Awesome. And then finally, I'm gonna copy this because I'm a lazy programmer there. Copy that. There we go, copy, and then we paste that, awesome, and then we save that. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm not actually gonna add an event listener in the common sense or the sense we just learned about. I'm gonna do it in the second way. And what it is that if we come down here to the button, to Lucy's buttons in particular, buttons actually come with attributes that work like event listeners. We can set up event listeners within an attribute. And what that attribute is called is on click. So I'm gonna press enter there for a second and say on click. And then I'm going to paste the name of my function with parentheses. What this does is that it says when this button is clicked, when the event click happens, I want you to run this function. So this is something brand new that we haven't seen yet. So let's go ahead and first make sure it works. So I'm going to refresh that. And we click Lucy and we see that this new style that we just did actually works as well. But you might be looking at me right now and be like, what the heck? You told me that I have to define these functions and everything below the tag that I was actually created. And yes, you are absolutely correct. We do have to do that. The thing is that as it was being compiled sequentially, this function, both functions actually, were built and remembered because they're named functions. So as it's being compiled sequentially, it's remembered. Because again, named functions are remembered. So we're not asking to run these now, we're just asking them to remember them. So on line 27, change Arnold tag is remembered. Change Lucy tag is remembered. We come down, we're still running sequentially, and we come down here to our on click. And as we get to line 67, change Lucy tag is remembered. It knows what you're talking about. So when a person is on clicked, it's all compiled and able to be ran. So in the end, if you are a little confused by that, because that was a terrible way of explaining that, is that our functions, because we named them at the top, are built and able to be used within our elements here using these on clicks. Now, that is how we can utilize these attributes and these events to do something fun on our website. And I'm gonna pause there too, just one last time to see if anybody has any questions about how we just did this a second way of adding these event listeners. All right, anything at all?
Could you explain line 68?
Line 68, for sure. So line 68, so are we talking about the ID?
Yes, yes.
So what this is, just first, if anybody also is looking at that, this is just reformatted. So what this is just me typing enter into the different lines. So it's still within the tag of the button, but it's just a very long line and it's just hard to read. So first what I did is I just press enter here just to make everything on its own line. That's what that was. So ID is a part of the button. ID is a part of this button. And as we know, ID is how we identify elements within our HTML document. As we see up here, ID Arnold button. It's how we identify Arnold's button. So the ID is how we simply just identify the specific element within your document. Does that kind of hopefully clarify what exactly that line is doing just out there randomly?
Yes, that does.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Yeah.
What is on click? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Does the button have to be in that specific section, or could you do, say, like all of your buttons in one area? Can they pull from different sections with the same like ID tag, or do they have to be in that specific section?
So as we've seen, you can develop and style your website however you want. You can put as many buttons as you want there. So if I wanted to just put 3 adopt buttons or something like that, that's completely fine. However, when you add new buttons like this, you're going to have to change the ID tags because IDs have to be unique. No matter if it's the same element or not, or the same tag or not, it still has to be a different ID. So you have to be Lucy button 2, Lucy button 3. So your IDs would have to change. But if you want to put all your buttons right here, that's fine, because what would happen if we come over is that we're just going to get 3 adopt buttons right there. So that just grouped together, because that's how we styled it. That's how where we asked our HTML to put it.
Yeah, I guess my question was, does it matter in the where exactly this is located in the HTML?
to run the on click with the event?
Yes. So like so Lucy text is in, like everything regarding Lucy is in this specific section of the HTML. Does it matter that that is where that button is located for the on click? Or can that—
For the way we did it for Lucy, no. We can put it anywhere in our document and it'll work just as developed.
Okay.
For the one we did up here, for this script, it has to be beneath the Arnold button, because otherwise we won't be able to find our button selector. So for that purpose, I'll just show you, if we did this up here, what would happen, and we save that, and we come back over here, we're gonna get this little error saying, we cannot read property add event of null. And if we click adopt me, it stopped working. Again, because we did this sequentially. So hopefully that adds a little bit of light of the differences and why we go one way or the other. Does that kind of help?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So I see what is on click. On click, think of on and then click as two separate words. It's the event. So on a click, do this. And we'll see another event here real quick if we have some time. So on click is just the event that we are preparing a listener for, so we can do something when the user clicks it. Can you scroll your code back up to the functions you added? Yes, and don't forget that if you do have this or you have access to my GitHub, the full dash index also has that code as well.
That's true. That's true. I can just look at that.
Cool. And then what does element on line 62 mean? Line 62.
Kyle, you changed it. It's now 64.
Now 64. It's running away. Okay, this means a line break right here. So it just gives a little bit of space between them. So let's go ahead and take a close. Yeah, and I'll show you what it is. This is a little magic here. Refresh it, and you see how that little space went away? It just adds a little space.
I got it. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Yep. Oops. All right, you guys want to see one more cool thing? And I won't even have to ask any questions. You guys want to see one cool, fun event that I'll just get for you, prepared for you?
Entertain us, Kyle.
Entertain you. All right, just for the last things. Please. So don't feel like if you don't understand what I'm doing that you have missed the whole lecture. We're going to go a little bit deeper of a dive into what we have discussed here, just in case anyone's curious. And so we've only talked about the on-click event so far. But what I want to tell you about is that there's, I'd say, almost a couple hundred events, kind of. I actually don't know how many there are, but it's not thousands. It's like, it's a couple. But the other one that I want to talk to you about is the mouse over and mouse leave one. That's always a fun one to do. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have our buttons here, but every time my mouse goes in it, it's going to be a different color. And then when I leave it, it's going to change it back to normal. So let's see if I can do that. We're going to remove these two extra buttons here. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come up here and create a function that says change the background color. And so I'm going to say function. And what I'm going to say is handle, which is a common way of saying how you're going to handle an event. Handle adopt button or handle, let's just say handle on mouse enter. And then I'm going to make and then I'm going to take in the elements ID. Element ID. There we go. And what I'm going to do is that I need now to get my ID. So I say let my element equal document dot get element by ID, and then I pass in that parameter element ID. Awesome. Now I haven't used this anywhere, so don't think what's going on, but hopefully you've seen this before in JavaScript. Nothing's new here, just our document stuff. And then it's my element, and I'm going to say, like I said, on mouse enter, I wanted to change its background to a different color. So my element dot set attribute, and I'm going to say style, and then background color. So someone give me a color. Someone give me a color. What's someone's
green?
Green. All right, we'll change it to green. Awesome. All right. And then that's really it. Let's just do that. Fun enough, right? So what we're going to do here is on mouse enter. So I'm going to come down to my buttons now. And instead of having these things here, well, I can keep that there. I'm going to do a new event on the Arnold button. Like I said, it's a long line there and it's hard to see, so I just put these on the different line. And the event I'm going to do on this one is on mouse over, which means the mouse is entering in. I want it to do a specific thing. And it was that handle on mouse enter, right? Is that it? No, I need it. Yep, perfect. And then in here, I'm going to put the ID in the parentheses, and I'm going to use a single quote, and this one is going to be Arnold dash button. There we go, just like that. So let's go ahead and save that, and I'm going to go down here and do the same thing to my Lucy button. Perfect, there we go. Awesome, awesome. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we do this. Let's refresh. And now we see Adopt Me. Adopt Me, there we go. The background is changing now, but it's not changing back whenever I leave my mouse. So let's go ahead and now implement that event. Let's go back here. What we need to do now is create it to go back to no background color. So I'm going to go ahead and say function handle on mouse leave, please. There we go, element ID. And what I'm going to do is copy this up here, paste it down here. And what I'm going to do is instead of background green, I'm going to put background none. There we go, perfect. So now we have handle on mouse leave. I'm going to copy that to help me out. And now I'm going to put my second event in there, on mouse out or leave. They have changed these names on me. I'm old, oh my gosh. Arnold button, there we go. Back in my day, it was called on mouse leave. And we come down here. These whippersnappers don't even know. All right, on mouse leave, Lucy button. See, I told you I'm going crazy because of this. All right, on mouse leave, there we go. And why are you complaining? Oh, because I didn't put a little tag there. Are you also complaining up here? You sure are. There we go. So I just did this new event called on mouse out, which means when we're leaving outside the button. So we're going to save that, come back over here, refresh, and is everyone ready? Look at that. Oh my gosh. Doesn't that awesome button selection just make you want to adopt these two kids? Look at that. Beautiful. And if you click it, oh, adopted and adopted, bam, we did our job. And that's the life of a developer, getting these pets adopted. All right, that is the event, and that is what I wanted to show you. This is a more complex example of how we can use events to do something cool on our website. Don't forget, all of this is available in the full-index.html. I'll also be, and I'm going to control save this real quick before I see that, because we're all finished. I'm going to go back to our terminal, and what I'm going to do is git add period git commit -m did some fun lecture. And I spelled lecture wrong, but it's fine. And then, oh, I forgot. You don't like that. Git commit -m, and it knows I just spelled it wrong. Did some fun lecture. There we go. End quotes, no exclamation points. And then git push. And now it's all out there for you to have. Look at that. Miracle of technology. All right. So I see some questions here, and we'll get as many as we can, but we are almost over time here. So what is line 16 mean? What is document to end dot A? What is document? Take a look at the what we talked about in lecture. Document is all about your HTML elements. So please go back over that. Document is how we manipulate, get, and set everything within our HTML. If you want to know something specifically about document, let me know. Jason, would you be able to write functions on a different file? You absolutely would. That's how we did. So if we wanted to write it here in the simple-js file, we absolutely can. So you put your functions in there and then reference them in your HTML, just how we saw. If you have Amazon Prime, they will be on your doorstep the next day. Yes, I hope so. Gotta love Amazon sometimes. All right. Awesome, everyone. Well, thank you very much. That is all I have for you all today. So thank you for sticking with me. I will be back on here for 8 o'clock for our studio review. But other than that, feel free to break into your smaller groups and have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you all back on Thursday. Remember that Monday, go directly to your small groups. All right, bye everyone.